We begin with a poem by Alice Walker. Ancestors never sleep. Ancestors never sleep and always seem to know what they're doing. How is that possible? I ask myself. Sometimes I am weary enough to expire. What a relief, I will think, no more obsessing about this madness, whatever it might be. This year or even this century. But ancestors merely yawn and send me off for a nap. Not only is life not over, they sniff, it has barely begun for you. There are eternities waiting just beyond the next bad movie you fear you'll be starring in. Go to sleep. Rest your brain, rest your heart, rest your eyes, and all your thoughts. We have been with you from the beginning, which didn't exist, and we will be with you until that moment of non-existence swings round again. You are attempting to carry the suffering all around you, but your back is bending. Let us bear it for you, knowing as we do that it is only a difficult turn on a never-ending journey of dissolving and becoming and dissolving again and becoming once more, forever and ever, on and on. Save despair, our beloved sweet cakes, for a couple of eons later. Our Ancestors Never Sleep by Alice Walker. We're continuing in a series about how to mindfully reemerge from this pandemic. Today, on this summer solstice, on the day with the most light of the whole year, may we find inspiration in the wisdoms of our ancestors and the ancients and among one another here. Last Sunday, a beautiful event happened. At least I once would have considered it beautiful, but right now, I wasn't so sure. See, there's a person in my hometown who has been a prominent leader on many different fronts, whether school or church or about town. He's touched a lot of lives, and now cancer has touched him. He's actually in the final stages of life, most likely. And so my hometown of 900 people got together and they threw him a concert to honor him and show him how much they care for him. And it was in my home church, which not a small sanctuary by any measure, and it was packed. There was a choir of over 70 singers from throughout the community. Amazing. And yet, I know the vaccination rate for my home county, a county which just so happens to have more turkeys per capita than any county in the nation, not metaphorically. That vaccination rate is well under 70%. And out of those 400 or so people there, about 4 were masked. That's about 1%. So I watched this beautiful event online. And I found myself feeling two things simultaneously. One, I felt an ache and a longing to be there, to sing, to be in community with my community, to show honor in a way that we humans can. And on the other hand, I felt myself recoil. And I felt anger that the event wasn't outside. I felt anxiety for my loved ones who chose to go even though they're vaccinated. I felt fear. I don't know how it is for you right now, but daily I feel this simultaneous pull towards and the want to push away from community. It's like there's this dance that I've been dancing since before time remembered, but now my rhythm's all off and I've forgotten a few steps. Or it's like the feeling I often have towards kale. I love you, green vegetable animal. You're so beautiful and good for me, you beautiful thing. But today I can't stomach you. I just don't want you. Or it's how I've always apprehended the Minnesota State Fair. There's so many people and so much food, so much to see. Ew, there's so many people and so much food and so much to see. See, we're at a moment where there is a need to reconcile these two competing instincts, where we need to figure out, what does it mean to human once again? A time where we need to breathe in that which serves us and breathe out that which doesn't. We do it for the sake of our own well-being, which in turn is for the sake of the collective and the world. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here when I say that human beings are wired for community. Otherwise, you wouldn't have shown up today. We're not so different from trees in that regard, as many of you probably know. Trees reach for the sky and the sun, but also dig deep into the earth and are connected there. As Peter Wolleben, a German forester and author, has articulated for us all, what we used to think of as disconnected loners competing for resources like water and nutrients and sunlight actually live in astonishingly interdependent relationships. Underground trees share water and nutrients, send distress signals about drought and disease, and alter their behavior when they receive these messages. Like us, trees are wired, or rather rooted, for community, and more is going on under the surface than we could ever perceive from above. Nicholas Christakis is a sociologist and a physician who researches social networks and biosocial science. And he argues that from an evolutionary perspective, we humans are not only wired for community, but we're wired for good. Because, as he points out, if the presence of another human who wasn't biologically related to you caused you a threat, or every time you approached another one, they hurt you or insulted you, we as humans wouldn't have ended up clumping up so in cities and towns and the like. We wouldn't do things like have non-kin friendships or partake in the practice of teaching, which is a unique thing amongst the animal world. As humans, we must be wired to be in relationship, a beneficial relationship to one another. It's that African philosophy, Ubuntu, I am because we are. It's the Buddhist concept of anatta. We are so independent, there is barely an individual self. It's the truth and the mystery of yawning. Like, I've seen the yawn be passed through Zoom. I don't understand. We are interconnected. We are wired for community. So what happens when a social, communally wired, intrinsically connected species has been forced to isolate for over a year? Forced to fear the very thing we need, fear the thing that we are. On the extreme end of this, think of parents who in this past year were forced to quarantine from their children, waving through a window, blowing kisses to little hands, keeping apart what feels like their heart outside of their bodies, aching to be near but unable for 10 days, maybe months. By necessity, we stayed away from one another for the sake of one another. We learned these new patterns of behavior, but now what? Now what? Jason Raisin wrote a recent op-ed in the Washington Post about this moment that we're in. He does it from a unique perspective. Jason is an Iranian-American journalist who served as the Tehran bureau chief for the Washington Post. And in 2015, he was convicted of espionage in a closed-door trial in Iran. He was held for 544 days, including solitary confinement in Iran's Elvin prison. So Jason, of this moment, this anxiety-ridden space of collective reemergence, he says this. He says, when I was released, as happy as I was to be free, I didn't feel as good as I expected. See, I hadn't realized that adapting to positive circumstances also takes time. Or as Ed Young wrote in that article last month in The Atlantic, he said, it's as if we've been swimming and swimming and we finally got to shore, but then we still feel like we're drowning. Like right now, things are better, so shouldn't we all be doing better, feeling better, just be back to ourselves? Continuing, Raisin suggests that whether we recognize it or not, the isolation of these last 15 months has affected, even changed us all. That person who used to be super affectionate, the hugger, that person, they may now recoil at the idea of being touched by a non-family member. The one who was the life of the party does not want to do large group gatherings. And that once amazing communicator cannot look people in the eye. Priya Parker, author of the book Why We Gather and Why It Matters, said in a recent interview that it's like we need to physiologically retrain ourselves to re-enter society. We need to re-humanize. Like when you greet someone, do you reach out a hand or an elbow? Do you do a tie Y? Are you comfortable going into a store without a mask, even if you're vaccinated, even as the mandates are lifted? Or how do you feel when you have that mask off in public now? And what is small talk anyway? Why did we do it? How do we do it? The weather, blah, blah, blah. Vikings traded that one guy for the other. How's your cat, right? As Parker points out, for a year, we didn't have to make a lot of social decisions. Could you go to this or that? Were you available? What else was on the schedule? Did you really want to go? We haven't had to make these kinds of choices or worry about how to allocate our time in this way or the feeling of not wanting to reject someone. Now, the decision and social fatigue set in faster than before. A few weeks back, it was our youngest daughter Sybil's birthday party weekend. And first of all, there were the invitations that went out a few weeks early, and on which I made explicit that this was an outdoor gathering with a small crowd of kids that already interacted at school together, and we would respect the mask wishes of the parents of the child that was coming. Then the actual party came, and it was a good day. But it also came the day after we had gone to an in-person dance recital for our oldest. Mind you, it was just like 15 minutes, one dance, only those dancers there. And then the next morning after Sybil's party, we went to in-person worship for the first time at Gloria Day. And then when a friend of mine invited me to an afternoon gathering on that Sunday for a great cause and reason, where my husband and I usually would have rallied our introverted selves and yeah, we'll show up, for our friend because we love you, we want to celebrate. I just couldn't do it. I was totally exhausted in a way that went beyond being an introvert needing to recharge. But then I was totally sad and then feeling guilty. And I wrote this dramatic text to my friend apologizing for not being able to be there. And it was this mixed up moment of that pull towards and that push away from community. And that's the moment we're in. Transition. From we didn't know what to what we're not sure, where the rules aren't clear, where we aren't the same necessarily. We're in transition. That's like crossing a swinging bridge between two cliffs, and guardrails would be really helpful. And so for me this week, I thought about those guardrails. What is collective wisdom we could draw on? And here's three things, just three that I've come up with. There might be more in this room, and I would welcome them later. One guardrail, I think, in this time of transition is honesty. Honesty. This disconnection, reconnection, in-between time anxiety, we're all in it. So let's name it, that this is quite awkward. Let's name that we are inevitably going to be in micro moments of perceived rejection over the next month. Micro moments of perceived rejection where you reach out your hand and someone, puts their hand away, where you walk up to a group and someone walks away from it. Where you don't wear a mask and people look at you funny like you're not vaccinated, but then you do wear it or you don't wear it and then you feel like you forgot to put on your pants. Let's get honest that learning to human again is awkward. A second guardrail that I have been drawing on is taking the long view, thinking of ancestors. Like as Alex Walker put it, our ancestors never sleep. Or as Christine Painter said, she says she gives thanks for her ancestors, for the wars and the plagues they endured and survived, for the resilience of them is in our bones and in our blood. I wonder who in your life story went through it when they were on earth and may just be cheering you on, available for strength while you remember them, while you still walk your own journey. I would think of my grandma Sem, or on this Father's Day of my dad. Get on that jet 30,000 feet up, call on the strength that you have on your bones, the wisdom that your ancestors might tell you. A final guidepost that I am drawing on these days, I'm reminded of the wisdom of breath. Thich Nhat Hanh says that breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts. So when we don't know if we're coming or going, what guardrails or guideposts to grab onto or how to act in this moment of liminality, our breath can ground us to the present moment. One breath, 1 minute, 1 day at a time. And so I thought we would end our moment together with just 2-3 minutes of mindfulness. Don't worry, I'll help you end and stop. You can close your eyes if it's comfortable or just soften your gaze. Oh, if you just like to observe this moment, that's okay too. So I invite you at this time, close your eyes, soften your gaze, or just tune in. I invite you to notice your body seated wherever you are, feeling the weight of your body on your chair. Take a few deep breaths. And as you take a deep breath, bringing in more oxygen, enlivening the body, as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing more deeply. Notice your feet on the floor, the sensation of your feet wherever they are. Are they heavy? Are they light? Do they ground you? Notice your legs against the chair. Is there pressure? Is there weight there? Notice your back against the chair. Bring attention to your stomach area. If your stomach is tense or tight, let it soften. Take a breath. Notice your hands. Are your hands tense or tight? See if you can allow them to soften. Notice your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Notice your neck and throat. Let them be soft and relax. Soften your jaw. Release any tension you might hold in your face. And then take one more breath and notice your whole body present. And then begin to draw attention to your breath. Notice how it rises and falls. Don't try to control it. And as you are able, connect a word of meaning to each inhale and exhale. What do you need to inhale this week? Is it courage or strength, healing or peace? What do you need to exhale or let go of? Is it fear or worry or anger, anxiety? Once you find the words of what you need to inhale or exhale, we will spend 1 minute together. Just 1 minute, breathing in and breathing out that which we need. As you take just a few final breaths, gather up this few-minute practice. Gather up the courage, the strength, or peace that you need for the week. Breathe it into every fiber of your being. On your next exhale, return to your normal breath. Begin to bring awareness to where you are. Sense your feet, the chair, shrug your shoulders. When you're ready, open your eyes. I want to thank you for practicing with me today. Whatever rehumanizing challenges you face in the next weeks, may you find wisdom from your ancestors. May you find grounding in your breath. And may you find peace, which even surpasses human understanding. Amen.